General Austin says, maybe in a year or two there'll be some progress against ISIS. And meanwhile, the rhetorical progress is moving on almost every front. Now suddenly, yes, there were WMDs in Iraq. We found the chemical weapons. They were being used against American troops. This was all hush-hush. That is now out here as a part of the new narrative. In addition, that was the enabling reason for the 2003 to 2012 or to yesterday war against Iraq. But there's been a long war going on in that region since 1979, when the United States started to arm, train, and organize an army against the Afghan government, because they didn't like the fact that there was an elected socialist government in Afghanistan, and so they trained the Mujahideen. They assembled and trained the Mujahideen out of landlords and others that were negatively impacted by socialism. They were being, having their lands redistributed and things, and so that was the beginning of the war. That war has continued more or less with the feeding of military advisors and materials into the Afghanistan, while after the Soviet Union came in to try to prop up the government at the government's request, and that lasted through the 1980s. And then in 1991, the United States declared war. Well, actually, in 1990, the United States went to war against Iraq. That began in January 1991, and that war has continued until today. So, I don't know about long war. They've had a long war going on for a very long time. This past Wednesday, the Secretary of Defense showed us some of the limits of this, and it's not just a year or two. He said essentially we can expect to be fighting terrorism, quote unquote, which is what they call themselves doing as they try to conquer Syria and reconquer Iraq, for a very long time. And by the way, we also have to deal with this new revisionist Russia that is at the doorstep of NATO, leaving out the fact that the only reason Russia is now at the doorstep of NATO was that they've moved NATO's doorstep from Western Europe to Russia's front door. And so we're looking at, according to our Secretary of Defense, and he was talking in the context of funding and long-term planning, of planning to be at war for a very long time, including planning a major war with a nuclear power, Russia. This is going to continue because no resistance manifests itself that's effective or even troubling to the power elite here in any sphere, really. There aren't massive demonstrations that threaten power. No one's occupying Washington, and I don't mean 800 kids sitting in a park across from the White House, but 500,000 or 2 million people surrounding the city and shutting it down until policy changes. And you don't even see in the congressional elections any anti-war candidates being presented on the ballots of either the Democratic or Republican parties, which are the only parties for some reason, the magical thinking that goes on in the electorate here, that people will vote for in any large numbers. None of them are anti-war candidates. They're not being presented, despite the fact that the majority of the population is and has been for more than a decade an anti-war population. So the solution is not yet on the horizon, and the problem is going to increase until either a solution is found or the solution or the resolution of it is that the planet gets blown up by the adventurism and the insanity of American policy.